This is the calm before the storm. This Bitcoin pressure cooker is about to burst, and it's going to be the talk of the town. Here's the latest, and here's everything you need to know right now. My name is Steve. Hit that subscribe button. Let's jump straight into the charts. What I'm going to do is we're going to break down a couple critical charts, including this one that's right in front of us, the pressure cooker, as well as the latest on the 2-week close, as well as the latest on our new green bar that just printed, as well as the latest on this chart and the latest on this chart. It's going to be a jam-packed video, so make sure you sit down, take some notes. This is going to be very critical information. At the end of the video, I'm going to give you my take on all of the charts that we covered on what I think is going to happen. And then I wanted to talk about something controversial with Christmas, something that I did this Christmas that's a little bit controversial. I wanted to get your opinion on it. We'll talk about that at the end of the video as well. Happy New Year. Let's jump straight into it. First and foremost, we're on the weekly chart. And what we've noticed is that Bitcoin is in a massive pressure cooker. Price action has been incredibly quiet because the pressure cooker is about to burst, and we need to know some clues as to what is going to happen in Bitcoin. Let's break it down. The biggest part of the pressure cooker is right here in the RSI on the weekly chart. What we've been doing is this red line has been our extreme resistance for multiple years, for the entire year of 2021 and the entire year of 2022. We have multiple touch points, one being back in January of 2021, the next being in November of 2021, and most recently on Halloween, October 31st of this past year. At the same time, we've been having resistance from this. What we've been seeing is we've got some bullish divergence playing out in the chart, meaning that price action, we created a low here and a lower low, an indicator, a low and a higher low. This indicator, a low and a higher low. This indicator, MACD, a low, a higher low. So we have this bullish divergence forming, and at the same time that we've had a multiple year rejection from this level. Something's got to give. Why? Because we have no more space. We literally have no more space in our pressure cooker. We are talking about it before the close on January 9th, right? On January 9th, we literally are not going to have much room to play with. So in 1 to 1.5 weeks from now, this thing's going to burst. This is literally the calm before the storm. Now, we're going to talk about some clues as to what's going to happen, but make no mistake, we have bullish divergence. Make no mistake, we have a multi-year rejection. Make no mistake, right now, on our weekly stochastic RSI, it's not looking good. We've just had a cross down in the weekly stochastic RSI that just printed some new parts that are not very pleasant. And we're going to get into a few other charts, but what we're going to do is break down chart for chart. We've got 3 or 4 other charts to cover, and then I'm going to give my summary for everything that we're seeing, right? We've got this bullish divergence. We've got this multi-year rejection. We've got the cross down in the stochastic RSI. But what can we make of it? We have to look at some more facts. 2-week chart. 2-week chart is a little more powerful. Less false signals. More on the momentum side. Let's take a look at what our momentum is doing. We just had a cross down in our 2-week stochastic RSI. Now, granted, we had a little bit of a cross down back in August that we covered right here. That was a bit of a fake out. We wanted to see that continue to rise, and it did. The 2-week stochastic RSI is very significant. We don't often have cross ups and cross downs. There's not a lot of false signals. You can see we had a cross here and then a cross here, months and months later. This is in December. This is in March. So oftentimes you'll see we had a December cross here and not again until the following year. So sometimes these go for quite a while, and we have to pay attention because that's our momentum. On our weekly chart, as we just covered, our momentum is pointing down. On the 2-week chart, our momentum is also pointing down. These are not good if you wanted to see price action rise in Q1 of 2023. Now, our next chart here, we have broken a record in Bitcoin. This is a record that was withstanding for cycles, cycle after cycle after cycle. We printed these 4 green bars. And when we stopped printing the green bars, that's when the bear market was over. We printed these green bars as kind of a warning to everybody like, hey, if you didn't buy Bitcoin yet, you should be buying during these green bars and stop buying when the green bars stop. Plain and simple, that's what it means, right? It's the CM Williams VIX fix. You can get it for free by going to your indicators and typing it in. And then we got to our next cycle, 2018. We printed precisely 4 green bars. That was at the best time to buy Bitcoin during these 4 green bars. And once we stopped printing these green bars, it was time to stop adding to your positions. Right? And again, this is kind of a big picture, holistic approach to the Bitcoin to make it more simple and more easy. We're trying to see these big picture trends. And again, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button. This is where we just talk about the facts and the charts. We present them as evidence and we make sound decisions based on these pieces of evidence. This cycle has been a little bit different. So far, we've printed 3, 6, 8 of these, which is double what we've ever printed in any other cycle. But again, we started printing them when it was a fairly good time to buy. Price hasn't fluctuated very much during this period. It's been very, very quiet. And what we're doing now is we're saying to the market like, hey, these are some pretty good times to buy, but it's not time to stop buying yet. We haven't stopped printing these green bars, so therefore we're not out of the woods, right? How many more green bars are we going to print? Nobody knows. But what we do know is that when we stop printing them, more than likely the turmoil is over. As we go to our next chart, it will also tell us some clues as to what's going on. We usually print these nice little green bars at the most opportune time to buy Bitcoin, right? We printed it right here in February 2015. We printed it right here in February 2019. And then we printed it right here in July 2022. More often than not, these have been the best buying opportunities in Bitcoin. You can say, oh my God, Steve, price went down a little bit after we printed this. That's irrelevant. In the grand scheme of things, this is irrelevant. We're looking at the big picture. We're trying to get a better understanding, and we're talking about what the market has done previously with these green bars. And what we can tell is that when this green line crosses back above the red line, that's also when the turmoil is over. It did so in 2018 again. We had this green line cross above this red line. That's when the bear market was over and we switched to a bull market. We're not quite there yet. Pretty far away. We've got to fill this gap in over the coming months. But what this chart says is that we're not close to being out of the bear market yet. And plain and simple, that's basically what it's saying. This chart will take it a step further, right? This is our chart that we've been following for cycle after cycle after cycle. Bitcoin repeats the same cycle every 4 years. You remember at this time last year, like 1 year ago, we called for a mega crash to be coming. But before the mega crash, that we were going to have a big fake out rally. That was our big call a year ago, and nobody wanted to believe us. Everybody thought we were about to go to 100,000. And we said, well, just based on the facts in this chart that we've been covering for years, we're going to have a mega crash later in the year. But first, we're going to have this big fake out rally. We had a big fake out rally of 48% in 2018. We had a big fake out rally 4 years earlier of 50%. We didn't know how much it would be. We just said it's probably going to be similar to them. And it ended up being a 47% rally. It got everybody really excited. And that's when, everyone was chanting Bitcoin 100K, and we called for a mega crash at 48K. Now, when we fell down into the abyss, we have no momentum for almost 600 days in our 2014 cycle. Our 2018 cycle, almost 400 days, which again, this cycle was not a normal cycle. There was too much exuberance in Bitcoin still. We didn't have the proper structure of a bear market, and it was short-lived, just 400 days. We're right now at 365 days. 365 days of having no momentum in the market. What would have to happen if a lot of bullishness suddenly came in for whatever reason? It would take us multiple months to reach this top. So Q1, we're not going to reach above this level. It's not likely. In Q2, we might try to reach above this level. But again, later in the year would be more likely for Bitcoin to reach above this level. We're just too far from it. Even if a lot of bullishness came in right now, it's a huge mountain to climb just based on the facts and the charts. So I want to paint a very clear picture. Now, I think an interesting thing to talk about is when Bitcoin was falling. And at this time, we called for a mega crash to come. What's really funny, and maybe not so funny for you, but really funny for me, I believe funny for everybody, is our first prediction was that Bitcoin was going to fall to 13.7K. That was our first prediction when we called for a mega crash, like 1 year ago at this time. We called for a mega crash that's coming. We called for this fake out rally. The number we were always looking at was 13.7. Always. We changed our mind when Bitcoin actually fell down to the levels it was because we changed our mind based on the facts and the charts, which you should also do as well. Don't be emotionally attached to any outcome or another. You have to react to the facts and the charts and make sound decisions based on probabilities. So that's what we did. It was a prediction, kind of a blue sky prediction of, well, where's the strongest level in Bitcoin? When we were at 48K, we were like, well, it's clearly 13.7. Nobody can argue that. And we said it nonstop. We said it until today. It's still the strongest level and nobody can argue it. And it's just a little bit funny that that was our first prediction, and maybe it comes true, maybe it doesn't. Nobody on earth will know. But I would still not change anything because we reacted to the facts and the charts, and still there's no clear-cut evidence one way or another. Is the bottom in or not? There's still some evidence to support each theory. There's no clear-cut evidence yet. We're not quite there in our market stability yet to make a clear-cut call as a definitive call. We're not there. We're getting closer. But now, I wanted to talk about what I think, my synopsis of these charts that we just covered, and I want to talk about my controversial Christmas thing, because I wanted to generally get your, if you have kids or you're thinking to have kids, this is a topic that's quite controversial, but I wanted to explain my thought process and get your side. So what do I think first? I think that Bitcoin, this is the calm before the storm. You can feel it. In the coming weeks, we're going to have a big move. Right now, our momentum is starting to point to the downside. This 13.7 is becoming a realistic place that we could end up. We also have 10.7. That's a strong number. But I do believe that some evidence in the charts is saying that the bottom could potentially still be in, and that the jury is still out. We do have this bullish divergence. This is the only thing that could really save us at this moment from some more turmoil. But I think in the big picture, Q1 of this year is going to be a little bit tough. I think Q2 will also be tough, but I do think some evidence in the charts are saying that towards the middle or later part of the year, we could start to move out of the turmoil, move away from the blood in the streets, and start looking to a brighter future for Bitcoin. That's my general take as we stand now. Now, controversial Christmas thing. If you follow my channel, you're probably going to appreciate what I say. Maybe you hate what I say. Maybe you're going to love it. Maybe it will change your outlook. But I'm curious. So for me, as a human, I was never a big fan of Christmas. And by the way, society marketed it phenomenally because it gets people to spend money on things that they don't need or to fit in. Basically, that's basically what Christmas is. And again, this is not a religious thing. I'm just saying it from my point of view. I think Christmas is a big waste of money, to be honest. People buy things just to fit in so they can give it to people even though they know they don't want it, because that's what you're supposed to do on Christmas. And I hate that about Christmas. I really do. This is why my favorite holiday has always been Thanksgiving, because on that holiday, you actually tell people what you're thankful for instead of giving them a gift that they don't need because you're trying to fit into this society that is getting people to spend money to keep the economy running. Basically, that's basically what this holiday has turned into, unfortunately. So I already have this kind of negative perception of this point of giving gifts. I think it's a little bit silly. And this comes from somebody who a little over 10 years ago, I'm living in Center City, Philadelphia, in a nice house, a nice apartment with all of these things I don't really need. And then I sold it all and gave it all away. And I left with a little backpack on my back to travel the world. That was 10 years ago. I'm still on that trip. So I have a little bit of a different perspective now that I've seen the world. I've traveled to all these countries. I've lived all over the place and with a little backpack for probably half the time. So I have a little bit of a different perspective with things. I think people should really focus on memories and not things. You know, case in point, traveling the world. I have memories to last multiple lifetimes instead of like traveling around with all of my things that what are they going to do for me? So there's that piece of it. Now I have a child. I don't know if you're aware of this. My son is amazing. His name is Prague. He's going to be 4 at the end of February. So we're at this stage where like it's like Santa, Christmas, all these things. And what I've noticed my whole life is that parents will lie to the kids about Santa and then use it against them as like collateral damage. Like, oh, if you're not good, Santa's not going to come. If you're this. And for me, building a relationship with a child based on a lie is just not my thing. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in lying to my son for any reason. So this year, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to tell him the truth. I'm going to tell him that Santa doesn't exist. And I wanted to get his reaction. I wanted to see, what did this change? And, you know, I have a Santa costume. You saw me here with a Santa costume. So I talked to him about it. And I said, look, I don't like Christmas because of these things. You know, we have to buy all these gifts that we don't need. But also, I don't like to have a relationship with you based on me telling you we should never lie. But then I lied to you for years about maybe the tooth fairy and Santa and all of these other things. So I told him the truth and it didn't change anything. His excitement about Christmas and Santa didn't change at all, but he really appreciated that I'm honest with him. And I'm wondering, what do other parents do? I have no idea if this is like, usually I'm way on the other side of the fence with most things I do in this world. So I did a little research. It looks like I'm way on the other side of the fence. So I don't know. What do you do as a parent? I don't like the threats that parents make. Oh, if you're not good, Santa's not coming. If you don't do this. And it's like, meanwhile, it's like September. And they use it as a threat like all year. I don't agree with that. And I don't agree with building a relationship based on a foundation of lies. And then you tell the kids, oh, you shouldn't lie. Lying's bad. So I don't know. This is my predicament. I told my son the truth and it actually was perfect because we still celebrated. I still dressed up like Santa. There was still that imagination, that majestic place. He still loved it just as much, but he knew the truth. And for me, that's where I stand. I don't know, controversial or not. It's probably controversial, but I would love to hear your sense as a parent and what you've learned over the years. I'll read some comments down below. Peace and love to the fellow underdogs. Do you want to know when to buy and when to sell? Click this video right now.